Hey guys, apologize for the length of this video, but I hope you watch all the way through. Stay golden, pony boy. Hey, what's up there, you? This is No Budget Duelist, and I'm bringing you today my deck profile for Macro Mill for next format if the ban list is real. Like, the one that everybody at this point in time that everybody's touting as real. If that list is real, then this is how I'm running the deck: 2 tour guides and a Tsukiyomi. Otherwise, it would be 3 tour guides, but Tsukiyomi is a great addition to this deck, without a doubt. So let's get into the deck list. We've got 3 Banisher of the Light, 2 Destiny Hero Defender, 2 Grand Mage Aiza, 2 Helios Primordial Sun, 1 Morphing Jar, 2 Morphing Jar number 2, 1 Necrophase, 3 Needleworm, 2 Summoner Monk, 2 Tour Guide from the Underworld, and 1 Tsukiyomi. Now for the spells, we've got 1 Lord of Darkness, 2 Book of Eclipse, 1 Dark Hole, 3 Dimensional Fissure, 3 Gold Sarcophagus, 3 One Day of Peace, 2 Pot of Dualities, 2 Soul Absorptions, 2 Imperial Customs, 2 Macrocosmos, 2 Huge Revolution is Over, and 2 Wabaku. And for the extra deck, we've got 1 Gemnite Pearl, 2 Levier the Sea Dragon, yes, this deck needs 2, 1 Maestro Symphony Gem, 1 number 17 Leviathan Dragon, 1 number 30 Acid Golem, 1 number 39 Utopia, 1 Wind-Up Zen Maidens, and 3 Wind-Up Zen Maester. Now you're probably thinking this card is terrible. Normally, I would totally agree with anybody that said that to me. However, this specific deck can spam this mofo and, like, recycle Needleworms and Morphing Jars. So, it's a ridiculously good card for this deck. Basically, the point of this deck is to deck your opponent out. Now, this is achieved through Needleworm with its flip effect, Morphing Jar with its effect, Morphing Jar number 2 with its effect, and Necrophase. Now, the difference is that Necrophase has to be banished for its effect to activate, while the other 3 just have to go from face down to face up, unless your opponent activates Ceasefire, or if there's a skill drain, or if they Veiler it. Which, what is it? Hold on, let me see skill drain real quick. Skill, not too many L's. Drain. Skill Drago, yes. The effects of all face-up monsters on the field are negated while those monsters are face-up on the field, but their effects can still be activated. Okay, so let's say you flip up Needleworm, activate Book of Eclipse, goes face down, so it's no longer face-up, but its effect will still resolve, its effect will still activate. So Skill Drain can hurt the deck, but it won't destroy it. And I don't run a Heavy Storm. I don't run any backer removal, so if your opponent activates Skill Drain, you're kind of screwed, and you're going to have to start relying on Necrophase to do all that stuff. Of course, you could just, like, let's say you already have Grand Mage Aiza on the field, or you just have a Morphing Jar number 2 that you just face up, and then you normal summon Tour Guide, overlay for Levier, activate Levier's effect, and then, chain Book of Eclipse to flip it face down. Since now it's face down, but its effect still activated, it will resolve and summon the Necrophase. Then you can, I don't know, you'll just have Necrophase and defense on the field, and you'll have macro. But, yeah, so this deck can get around Skill Drain. It gets around Veiler in the same way. I don't know what other cards would negate effects, but this deck destroys dragons. It destroys, what other decks? Destroys dragons, destroys Dark Worlds. If Inzectors are still alive, it can hurt Rabbit. It can destroy Lavels. Like, you just activate Dimensional Fissure, and then they're done. They can't do anything anymore. Or, like, let's say they activate Sweltering Heat, you chain Macrocosmos, and then they send 2 cards to the graveyard, but instead they get banished. But the best combo with this deck is activate Soul Absorption, then activate Gold Sark, and banish Necrophase. Now, both players banish the top 5 cards of their deck, and Gold Sark will go to your grave, Necrophase is banished, and then the other 10 cards are banished, so you gain 5,500 life points. And you set Macro and Wabaku, and set Needleworm. And if you have Tsukiyomi in your hand, then this combo will work. So your opponent's turn, they summon something, then they attack your face down Needleworm, you activate Wabaku in response to their attack, you can't chain to an attack. So they attack your needleworm. It gets flipped up. Then they mill 5 cards. So let's do this. So you Gold Sark for Necro. Well, you activate that first Gold Sark for Necro. Then set. Then your opponent attacks that, and you activate that. Then afterwards, you're going to gain the life points from it because you don't want to cause a replay. Then you activate Macro, summon out Helios. Next turn, you draw. Doesn't matter what you draw. Normal summon Tsukiyomi. Flip Needleworm back face down, then flip it back face up. So then they banish top 5. Then you overlay these two to summon Zen Maester. Use Zen Maester's effect. Flip Needleworm face down. And at your end phase, Needleworm gets flipped back face up, so they mill another 5. So that is, in total, 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. Yeah, so they mill 20 cards already. And against a 40 card deck, minus the original 6 equals equals 34, minus this 20 is equal to 14. So now they're down to 14 cards. They have 14 cards left in their deck, and then they draw their next one, so then they're down to 13 cards. And then from there you can pretty much win, because you're at, what? It's a 48 card deck, right? Yeah, so you're at 48 minus 6 equals 42. Minus 6, which is equal to 36, minus 1 is equal to 35. So at the end of this, they'll have 14 cards, and you'll still have 35 cards. And all those cards will be banished, and you'll have gained, I don't know, hold on. So, plus 5,500 equals to that. Plus 5, yeah, you'll gain 10,500 life points. So you'll be at 18,500 since you're not going to be taking any damage from battle. So that's how much life points you're going to have once that entire combo goes off. And then from there on, your next turn you'll get back Necroface to your hand wherever it is. Then let's say you have, well, this will come to your hand. Let's say you draw into Allure of Darkness. You Allure of Darkness away your Necroface. You gain another 6,000 life points because now Macro's up and your Allure gets banished. And they're down to, well, they were down to 13 minus 5, which is equal to 8. And you gain another 6,000 life points, which means you're at 24,500. This deck gets you insane amounts of life points really fast. And with Tsukiyomi, this deck's combos are ridiculously overpowered. So, the duality is down to 2. I was originally running 3, and then I was like, well, I'd rather have less speed cards, and then just have like a smaller deck, because this deck is already up to 48 cards. Yeah. You should not be running more than 48, and this is like absolute highest end. And I run the 1 day just to 1, it deck thins more, and 2, it's a card that you can just, instead of summoning something when you have absolutely no plays, you can just activate that, and and you can just sit there for a turn unless they negate it. So this card just gives you like a quick free turn, just to, you know, wait to get another card. Because now you're going to be drawing another card, and then you get to draw another card. And it makes your opponent draw, which is very good for this deck, because you want your opponent to deck out. Which is funny against, this deck would be hilarious to play against Infernities, because then they just kind of like herp-derp you, and then you just go Macrocosmos. Or like, as soon as they summon out a monster, I'd probably activate Macro. But yeah. So, and then I was originally running another Soul Absorption, and I was running triple Gravekeeper Servant. And I wasn't running the Imperial Customs. But the Gravekeeper Servant, that's another card you can play in the deck. What this card does, when your opponent cannot declare an attack unless they send one card from the top of their deck to the graveyard. So, this is a cost. Since this is a cost, if you have macro on the field, since cards can't go to the graveyard, you can't satisfy Gravekeeper Servant's cost, so then your opponent can't declare an attack. The same is true for Dimensional Fissure or Banish for the Light. Yes, Dimensional Fissure says any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead, but because you don't know what type of card is on top of your opponent's deck without using a card effect, then you know, it's treated as being a monster, spell, or trap card, and it doesn't matter which one. So if you're in a really tight pinch and you're playing the Gravekeeper Servant variant, which I'd probably side into if I'm playing against like dragons or something, rather than playing I don't know. I probably wouldn't play the Imperial Customs and then like one of the huge revolutions to play the Gravekeeper Servants. But the deck needs a lot of level 4s. So you've got 2 Helioses, which can be summoned with your macros. I only run 2 just because 3 just ends up getting into your hand too fast, and you don't want Helios in your hand, you want it in your deck, because you can summon it from your deck just as easily as you can from your hand with Macrocosmos. The only difference being, then you're, 1, you're not deck thinning, and 2, that means you're losing hand advantage, and 3, that means that you didn't have another, that means you had a Helios rather than having a different card in your hand. And same thing kind of goes for Grenmaja to Isa. It's a target for Tour Guide, so remember that. This is a level 3 Fiend, doesn't have to be dark, but it's a level 3 Fiend, so it's a viable target for Tour Guide. And then you overlay them for love here. Or if you just have this card in your hand and it's like mid to late game, you already did like double Necroface effect. This card's going to be insane, and if you summon this card against the Dragon matchup and they lost their BLS, you're just going to... No, you could actually win with this deck by attacking. That's the crazy part, because if you just hold one of your Grenmajus in your hand and you don't discard it for something, this deck doesn't really have any discard costs. So, yeah, I mean, except for Morphing Jar. But Morphing Jar is basically like the troll card you use against Dark World. Because then they attack it, you're just like macro, don't summon. And then they have to banish all 5 cards in their hand at the graveyard. Or all of however many cards they have in their hand at the graveyard, then they draw 5. Which is kind of helping them, but now you have macro on the field, so they have like no options. And yeah, these are 3 of the cards that I would see fit to side into. That or Dark Bribe, like double bribe over the Imperial Customs, or it's what is it? Different Dimension Gate, or possibly even like GDR. Or not Different Dimension Ground. Yeah, these are cards I would definitely throw in the side deck. The DDR just to get back a Necroface for very little cost, and it's just like 1 card plus another card in your hand, doesn't matter what it is, and then you summon back your Necroface from being banished. And then if your opponent kills it, or like you could do that, then activate Heavy Storm if you just had to play it. Which that's a card you could side in over like Dark Hole or something, just in case your opponent's yeah, I'd probably side it in over Dark Hole. But you don't want to play Heavy Storm in the main, because I don't know if Imperial Custom will protect other cards you control from being destroyed by Heavy Storm. Like if you activate Imperial Custom, then activate Macrocosmos, and then you activate Heavy Storm. I don't know if it will. I don't know if it will. What is it? I don't know if Imperial Custom will protect your Macrocosmos. But if it does, then that's awesome, and I would definitely main that over, I don't know, what, probably a duality or a one day. More than likely over duality, just because one day is a freaking amazing card. And I wouldn't recommend running this deck without soul absorption, because there are times when I've gotten up to like 20,000 life points, and then I had no plays, so I just kind of had to sit there and absorb like 6,000 damage a turn, and it went like that for 2 turns, and then I was able to get my Necroface, and then I don't remember what I did. But yeah, Necroface is an overpowered card. I hope it never comes back to more than 1. Because it doesn't need to be at more than 1, and it's just a freaking overpowered card. And I wouldn't main MSTs in this deck just because you want to be running cards to give yourself more options. This deck has very little speed to it because it's like semi-control, but it's all mill based. So you definitely would have troubles with decks that are faster that play MST, and that's why I played the Imperial Custom over Dark Bribe. Just because Dark Bribe can negate anything, but I'd rather mill the card than make them draw it, because having an opponent draw cards against you is it's potentially devastating, especially with MST at 3 and Dust Tornado at 3. So yeah, I would just recommend if you're gonna play this deck, make sure to play defensively, and set your defenders. And if your opponent doesn't have that many cards left in their deck, like let's say they have 4 or 3 left, then Tour Guide to Grand Maju, and if you don't have any options, just detach and summon Defender in defense mode. So then your opponent just has to draw out the rest of their deck. Because that's always an option. Remember that if your opponent doesn't have any left, don't try to be fancy. Just go for Defender, and then stall out the game. Because chances are next turn, with Defender now on the field, your opponent probably won't be able to get over it unless they're playing Dragons, but if you still have Macro on the field, they won't have any options to summon anything. So unless they still have their 1 red MD still in their hand, because this is the new ban list, if they still have their 1 red MD, they won't be able to get over it. And then they'll be able to get over it, but they still have to draw 2 cards unless they flip it back face down. And, you have Book of Eclipse at this time, and then once they go to attack you, you just go Book of Eclipse. Everything goes face down. During their end phase, they draw an extra card for every card that flips up. If they only have 1 monster and they only have 1 card left in their deck because of Defender, then you can normal summon this guy. You can flip summon him, have him in attack mode, and attack his face down, and then just take a bunch of damage and just be like, lol. That just happened. And then they'll lose, and you'll have a face of attack position Destiny Hero Defender. So that'd be hilarious. Yeah, that's my deck profile about the macro mills and stuff. Have a nice day, YouTube.